welcome back, Emma Willmann.
Oh, Emma, you're Emma.
Here we go. Let's get crazy.
Oh, Emma.
What's up? Welcome to another episode of Emma's Bunker. Hello. How you doing? Thank you so much for being here. Just off the top, I want to thank you for your time and your attention and for the reviews, especially the muffin reviews. If you didn't hear that episode or the 2 episodes I said, if you can't think of anything nice to say on the review, just tell me about muffins. Muffins. Got some interesting info about muffins. I appreciate it. And I'm going to step things up with the show. I've been putting some thought and attention into it. And actually, my girlfriend says I need to start focusing more. She says, sometimes when you go off on your tangents, you go so far off that I can't even remember what you initially were talking about. So then when you talk about what you were initially talking about, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm going to take that feedback to heart. Okay, what was I talking about? Today's guest, Dinah Hashem. She's a comedian, really good comedian. Good writer, unique point of view. She was involved in a crazy scandal. I mean, even by scandals, this is standards. This is just so fucking weird. So weird. There was a rapper who passed away. Really tragic death. He had 50 grand cash and he was going to go get a new car. And he was shot. That's awful. And she had a joke where she was talking about the death. It was for a topical show. And she was like, this is absolutely awful. I'm totally paraphrasing. This is awful that this happened. Tragedy aside, be a great ad for Venmo. Unique take on an awful situation. She does full homage to that this is an awful situation. So it posts and she starts getting backlash. I mean, the thing is that no one was held responsible for his death. There's anger, there's confusion, there's dealing with the loss. It was like the perfect storm of how are we going to deal with this? What can be the face that we can think of when we think of this awful situation? And she started getting death threats. Another comedian, I'm going to put the other comedian in quotes. Fuck that guy. Fucking dweeb bis. He started coming after her, posting personal information about her. It was just awful. Really, really, really crazy. And I actually had forgotten about this. If you Google Dinah Hashem, you want to do it, it's D-I-N-A, Hashem. H is in Hector, A is in Alpha, S is in Sam, H is in Hoopla, E is in Emma, M is in spaghetti, but without the spaghetti word of that. You get it? Google that and then Google extensions death. And it is a real case study in timing, because that's what that was. It was an awful death, nowhere to put the anger, this joke, and crazy. I did a lot of research on her, and there was something I realized. Sometimes when I'm doing so much research, sometimes I don't create enough context for people that are listening that then didn't do that research. I want to get better about that. For the context here, other interviews that she's done, she talks about growing up and her mom and dad separating, growing up in New Jersey and not having her own room. She lived in the living room on the section offside, and her mom was extremely strict, Muslim, following her every move. And that's interesting to hear about that with her relationship with her father. I was trying to understand where the anger, if there was anger towards her dad, how she was expressing that. We talk about her childhood, having social anxiety. Shout out to social anxiety. Does some people not have social anxiety? I'm trying to think about my social anxiety. I really think mine is that I'm actually an introvert where I recharge from being alone. And I thought that I was anxious around people, but no, the anxiety would just be when I needed to recharge. And so when I wasn't recharged and I'd be around people, I would feel anxious. But I don't think that was social anxiety. I think that was just me not understanding what I needed to recharge. And it's taken a long time to learn how to do that. But social anxiety is, I'll feel intense anxiety and then apply it to social situations too. I'll wonder if I'll feel very anxious about certain things. That's why I take my pills, take my Zoloft. I've been taking it for years. So we talk about being socially anxious, and it's a really amazing turnaround because we discuss her social anxiety. So think of someone who suffers from social anxiety and not having a voice and all of these things, and then being thrown into this situation, which would be socially crippling to pretty much anyone. I mean, she was getting death threats constantly. This was a huge thing. I posted a hashtag in support of her, and I forgot I posted it, so it's a hashtag. Well, throwing it into the wind. And then I got some messages on their pictures of my niece, which weren't even near the picture I posted the hashtag to. Oh, your niece gets AIDS and cancer. That is like traumatized. Well, I got scared. I deleted my tag. I started getting all these skull and bones on my Facebook. Picture me eating a burrito. Die, motherfucker. Get AIDS in the throat face. I made that one up, but it was things like that. Awful. So the things that people were saying to her were just incomprehensible. It's the displaced anger about the situation, and then just boom, boom, boom. We talk about her social anxiety, her life in New Jersey, leading up to this case with Extension and dealing with it. She's got a great story about her mom. She's figuring out how her mom knew where she was, and I'll let her tell it. There's a private eye involved, okay? Here's the conversation. I hope that it offers a little bit of a distraction for you. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. All videos are up on YouTube. I just got Botox and fucking fillers, so see my brand new face on YouTube. Yeah.
Today I'm talking to comedian, actress, podcaster, and I don't mean to be rude by saying surprising, but a surprisingly good singing voice. I guess it is a little rude.
Oh my God. I don't even know how you know that. That's crazy.
Because I listened to your podcast and you sang the beginning of it, and I was like, oh, this is nice.
Wow, that wasn't even me trying. I can pretend to sing. I can get away with certain songs, but I can't really.
It was like calming.
Thank you. That's the whole theme of the pod. People tell me I have a calming voice, and so
it's calming, and then you were talking about some real shit.
I balance it out. I have the meditation music, and then I talk about my mom trying to finger me. I just
right. I didn't even get
out.
to that part yet. Yeah. I forgot that we did a movie. I don't even know if it was a movie, but I did an acting thing together.
Yes, we did. My favorite things that I act in are ones that I do it and then never hear about it again. It just kind of goes into the ether.
Maybe it's like the only way. I get surprised if I do hear about something. I'm like, oh, I didn't. Did that? It was called Ghost Friend. Did that ever air?
You know what? I think it might have gotten into some like Sundance. Oh no, maybe that was something else. I have no idea.
Because it popped up on your IMDb.
Really? Oh, that is there. I don't know who adds those things. You
can add it yourself. You can do your own bio, which I did years and years ago, and I didn't want to say that I did it, so I made up a management company. This is 10 years ago, and I posted it, and now I can't change it, and now I know that A, everyone knows you add it yourself, B, that's not a real management company, and now I know management companies, it's LBK Management or something. That's my IMDb still, because I can't figure out how to change it, but yours, it popped up, and I was like, holy fuck, and then I remembered us acting in that.
Yeah, I remember it being hot. That's all I really remember.
So when I was doing my research about you, it was like fun to dig into, but just to set the context a little bit. So when growing up, your dad moved to Kuwait. My first boyfriend was from Kuwait.
What?
Yeah.
I don't know anyone. Have you been to Kuwait?
You haven't been?
No, I've been to Egypt and Morocco to visit family, but not Kuwait. No, very rich country, but no interest in going there.
It is very rich.
Yeah, a lot of oil.
And the government pays for everything.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Like school and health?
Pay for school, health insurance, because I remember my boyfriend used to go back. I wonder if he was gay too. Because we were together a year, but it wasn't sexual. And that's why I felt safe with him probably. But he would always go back to Kuwait. And I remember he was really rich. That's where I learned about wealth that's beyond American wealth that I had ever seen.
Wow. Yeah, I wish my dad had that kind of wealth. He somehow has nothing, and I don't understand it. So no benefit at all from Kuwait.
So you were talking about that your father, he goes back to Kuwait when you're 6 and you're growing up in New Jersey, but you stayed in touch with him throughout?
Yeah, we would talk on the phone, and he would visit every few years. That's the extent of it, but never developed an actual relationship.
Would you feel comfortable expressing anger towards him?
It's funny. I just learned this term, gray rock. Do you know this emotional term?
No,
well,
sounds like a investment firm.
Yeah, it sounds like they're doing secret CIA activities. It's a technique to push people out of your life, but just in a very subtle way of just giving nothing answers and just not cutting them out, but just not really engaging in a meaningful way. I didn't know I'd been doing this to both my parents forever. I haven't explicitly gotten mad, but I'll ignore his calls and he'll be like, just tell me, am I a bad father? And I'm like, do you even have to ask that? If you have to ask that, then you have no idea. You're not in touch with reality. But I'm not going to have that conversation of, yes, here's why. So I'm just like, no, I'm busy.
Yeah, because it's also they're asking you to basically comfort them.
Yeah, it's totally that. And why? I don't know. I'm sure I'll feel bad about it later when he's dead. But
where'd you learn that term?
My friend literally yesterday was like, I'm going to start gray rocking toxic friends in my life. And I was like, that sounds great. Unless it's me. But she was like, it's not you.
Right, yeah, then you never hear from her again. You're like, what the fuck? Yeah, because I was reading about the setup for growing up where you're living in a sectioned off part of the living room. And I was curious, where would you express your anger? How did you cope as a kid? What were you like? It seems a lot of places that you'd maybe want to be mad, but what was your outlet?
I was just ended up being quite solitary. Like, I would just read a lot and do music, learn new instruments, things that I could just do alone. And always writing. I was always just doing artsy stuff and then hanging with my friends to the extent that I was allowed to. And it was literally that just me and my mom would have it out. We would fight throughout my life, but mostly it was just that gray rocking, just one word answers and stuff. Yeah, never like full on conversation. It was always either a fight or just, yeah, okay, sure, like that. So I spend a lot of time in my head. That's why I'm a comedian. I'm just always just sorting things out and thinking of stuff or putting it out into some kind of art thing. So,
what kind of instruments?
I started with the flute as a good little girl.
That's a nice one.
Yeah, and then I was like, fuck that, and I got the alto saxophone. And
because you're in the living room.
Yeah, that was. I wonder, did I have a room by then? I forget when I first got a room. I think I was in high school, so I must have had the sax.
Oh, good.
Was tormenting the apartment neighbors.
Yeah. Be really passive aggressive, but also fuck it.
I bought a violin, and that's the one I couldn't master. I was like, I play the guitar, so I could like do the fingerings fine, but the bowing I could never get to sound good. It was always horrible.
And you could do the sax?
Yeah, I was really good at sax, actually.
Really?
I started doing some Instagram videos when I was bored, like a year. I did 2 videos and I posted them, but then my sax got stolen from the creek in the cave, so I just...
Kidding me?
I left it there. It's my fault. I left it there for like maybe a good year or longer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Probably someone that worked there had to get rid of it.
I was asking because they were doing a big clean out, and I was like, did you throw away a saxophone? No, we wouldn't throw away a saxophone, but I don't know what happened to it.
Because that'd be a real big thing to steal if it was like a one night, and then you'd be like, if it's all comedians, you'd be like, where'd John get that fucking saxophone? Because it's he's doing an act with the sax now. I'd be like, yeah, that's my saxophone.
Yeah.
What would you and your mom about? Because I used to fucking fight with my mom all the time, but then I lived with my dad.
Okay, but he was cool?
Yeah, my dad, he was. Like, I feel like from a really young age, I started to be like, okay, parents are people, to not get mad at them. And I don't think he didn't know how to do the things like the cooking. He would always like lots of microwave corn and that he would burn. But then he would get a new girlfriend and she would cook for us. It was very gendered with that. He parented, I think, the best way that he knew how. But my mom and I were always at each other. We were just always clashing, but we didn't live together.
That's good. Thankful, honestly, that I didn't grow up with my dad. My mom wasn't the best, but it would have been a nightmare because he's way more, she was super religious, but he was crazy. When I visited in Egypt once, I had this half-sister, and like the way he treated her, just for like, we were at an amusement park, and she just for a second talked to some guy, he was asking a question or something, and he flipped his shit. Like, whatever I got away with here with my mom, it would have been so much harder to get away with him. So in a fucked up way, that was for the best. But my mom was just always, she was just a very strict Muslim lady, and she would just make sure I was never hanging out with guys. I always had to lie about everything, everywhere I went. We had code words with my friends. I'd give everybody an alibi in case she called them to be like, where is she? And it was just always just stuff like that. And then it would get like real weird. Like one time she found out, the biggest blow up was her finding out that I was dating a guy. And
how'd she find that out?
It haunted me because I was so good at covering my tracks. But she found out that I was like in a hotel with him. I'm in her house right now, so I'm also like,
she's gonna pop in.
And I just could not figure out how she found out. And then years later, she was like, I found out your stepdad is cheating on me because I hired a private investigator to follow him. And it clicked. That's it. She hired a PI to follow me. It's the only way she could have found out. So that's the level of...
Do you think she did, for real?
It had to be. There was no other way. I could probably ask her.
Were you not allowed to see the boyfriend again then?
I mean, on the record, I was like, we're breaking up, but I still dated him for the next year or something, and then it fell apart on its own.
How do you remember your mom first talking about religion with you? Was it just assumed you would have the same views as her?
It was all just assumed. It was all very just like cut and dry, strict. She didn't actually do as much of a job as she should have in terms of like getting an external. That's clear, obviously, but I mean, at least in terms of getting, we didn't go to mosque, I didn't go to like
really?
school. I was the only Muslim person really, and my brother and like maybe one other kid. There was one other kid in elementary school. His name was Muhammad, and it was so drilled into my head from an early age that I would need to marry a Muslim guy that I was like, I guess that's who I'm going to marry. I'm like 6 years old, like I better start getting to know Muhammad. So it was just always just kind of drilling. I had to pray. I was like praying 5 times a day for a long time and fasting and all that stuff. But she made like some attempts to teach me and my brother to read and write Arabic. But the thing is, she was working all the time. So she didn't actually have time to invest in doing an actual good job. It was more just constant warnings and threats and things.
That's a lot on her. If she feels like she needs to do that and be working, that's like a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah. She was nuts. She was totally nuts. She's chilled out a lot now, so I feel bad trashing her. But that just happened. But
there were no other Muslim kids where kids ask you about it a lot?
Well, I am like white passing, so I didn't have to explain myself a lot, except if I was like, I can't eat pork, or that was like the main reason it would come up as a kid.
Yeah, people fucking love pork and get really personally offended if you don't eat meat. Like they're like, I tried to write about that once. I could never make it funny, but people connect so many things to if you eat meat or not. It's interesting how foods become political.
Yeah, I have a joke about that. Where in New Jersey, we have the breakfast sandwich, and South Jersey calls it, I forget which one is which, but pork roll, and some people call it a Taylor ham.
Right.
Because what do you think? I'm like, you're all going to hell? I don't know.
Right.
Pork, it's a big deal in New Jersey, so.
If you don't eat it, you're trying to people think it's gay a lot. They'll be, oh, you don't eat meat, then you're gay. I've seen that connection. If a guy doesn't eat meat, they're like, oh, it'll seem like but it's kind of, you're going against meat and potatoes. You're not doing the most conventional thing, but who gives a fuck?
Yeah, I don't know why people get offended with that.
So come up with the pork, but other than that, does your brother pass as?
He's also passing, but he actually still believes in stuff. He's an alcoholic, so he's very chill Muslim. But we didn't talk about anything like that when I was growing up. Yeah, once I got a little older and people were like drinking and stuff.
Oh, you couldn't drink?
You're not supposed to, but
right.
I think senior year is when I started. But people were starting earlier, and I was still but then I got involved.
And you weren't like angry about like stuff, or you were still going with the flow?
I was angry a lot because I was losing my mind. I couldn't even commiserate with my brother because as a man, he didn't have all these rules. He was just a free individual. So
he didn't have a curfew or any of the stuff that you had?
No, he was free. It sucked. And he would always take my mom's side because he just wouldn't understand like why it's such a problem with her because he wasn't experiencing anything.
Right. He's like, she's great to me.
Yeah, golden child. Absolutely. So no, I had so much anger. Like it was just like a double life. Like when I was out with my friends, it'd be cool, and then I would come home and be a different person.
When I was a kid, I don't know if you felt this way, I never felt like I had a voice. I was at my dad's, but then I'd be going between my mom's and dad's, and how I coped with stuff was I was overeating as a kid. So then I was overweight, I felt trapped in my body, and then I wasn't doing well in school because of dyslexia, and I have dreams. I don't get them all the time, but same dream. So that I'm trying to communicate with someone, and we speak a different language, and there's a group of people, and there's a killer, and one of the people is the killer, but we're all looking at each other, and I'm trying to communicate who the killer is, but we all speak different languages, and no one will hear each other, and if the killer sees that I'm trying to call them out, then they'll kill everybody. And I think it's because I felt so mad. So when I was reading your story, I was like, I wonder if she felt that way, because when you don't feel like you have an outlet, for me, I imploded, like, literally.
Yeah, no, I was fat, too.
You were?
Yeah.
You're fat?
I only, like, recently, in the past few years, I was 200 pounds at my heaviest, but I carried it like a curvy figure, so it was, I don't know, like, when I look at pictures...
Did you do jokes about that? I've never seen you do a joke about it.
No, yeah, it's always been a weird thing. I didn't even notice. When I look at old pictures of myself, I'm shocked, because I don't know, it's weird. It's a weird thing. But so I was addicted to food. And also when I was 14, I developed this weird rare gland disorder, which would be a nightmare, and it would be exacerbated by sweating. So I couldn't even exercise. So I was like super trapped. It was horrible.
What kind of gland disorder?
It's called hidradenitis. I
Jesus
rarely talk
Christ.
about it. It's just a weird word, a weird thing. But so that compounded, yeah, just trapped mentally, trapped physically. It was
Yep.
just all a fucking mess. But it's funny because it's one of my all my like closest friends were children of immigrant parents, so at least
Mm,
there was some kind of, they were all Asian, but it was similar things. They weren't as crazy as my mom, but I had one friend who ended up coming out in college, and
really?
we basically had like similar experiences. Like she also felt like different person and like trapped, and so like I
Hmm.
think the Muslim and also like secret gay life and everything, there's a lot of similarities there.
Absolutely. Or I also felt too that I didn't want to tell people what my home life was like. Like I remember going to a summer camp and my parents being divorced wasn't the weird part. It was more like my sister lived with my mom and I lived with my dad. My brother lived with his mom, but I was in the closet about that. Like I remember thinking, okay, being gay is like number 3 or 4 on terms of what I don't even want to address. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I felt like I wouldn't even really talk about my parents' divorce with my friends at the time because I thought that then they would think I was like defunct.
Yeah, it's all a weird thing, divorce and then identity, and it's just all perfect storm of not being able
Hmm.
to communicate. And you think you're the only one going through that stuff.
It's interesting because a lot of times any comedian that was big, maybe there's more that were fat and don't talk about it, but I feel like they are like mine the shit out of that from material.
Yeah, I don't. It's weird. I guess I don't have more jokes about it. I don't think about it much. I don't like to think about the past, although I
Mm.
do have a lot of jokes about growing up Muslim. So I don't know. Maybe I'll come up with some fat jokes.
It can be tricky to talk about sometimes when you're not that weight anymore because I never want to seem like I'm being mean or
Yeah,
have a
exactly. Yeah.
problem with being that weight. It's just that my experience with being that weight symbolized to me an addiction and compulsion. But I have no problem if someone is that weight, that's
Yeah.
fine. But for me, it was connected with the time of my life that it was bad.
Yeah, same here. That's the same thing. Yeah, I was just, yeah, it was like a physical, it was the only thing I would look forward to a lot of the time. It's just, and to sever that connection of like pleasure and food takes so much discipline. It's crazy.
It's so fucking hard. Like it's so I still will get obsessed with like certain things with sugar. Like my mind will just start like obsessing about it, but it's
Yeah.
different. I don't feel the despair that I felt.
Yeah, I think once you sever the tie, you can't really go back to that feeling of like
Mm.
obsession and addiction. Maybe people can, I don't know.
I'll still get obsessed, but I don't. It's not the same. It's not like it's just not comparable because I don't feel like I've got too many outlets now that are okay for me to not
Yeah.
feel trapped. What was it like when you transitioned to going to college? Were you living on your own then?
Not until my junior year. So
Mm.
it was anticlimactic and shitty because my whole life I was like, I'm waiting, I'm doing what great in school so that I can
Right.
go to college and move out of the state and leave my family. And then the year of high school came and my mom was basically like made it clear like you're not allowed to leave the state. And I wasn't in the right mindset to be like, fuck you, I'm still gonna
Right.
apply to other schools. I was just so defeated.
Mm.
I only applied to Rutgers, and then they gave me a full scholarship, and then that sealed the deal of like I guess I
Sure.
have to go here now. We don't have any money. They're offering me a free education, so I was like fuck it. But it wasn't enough to cover dorms. So the
Mm.
first 2 years, I just worked a job and lived here and commuted. And then junior year, I got an off-campus apartment with some roommates. So that's when I finally got out.
Did you notice a change in yourself when you were living not at home?
Yeah, it was just amazing. I never had a door that locked until that
Mm.
point. Like even when we finally moved into a house and I got my own room, it's right there. Like the carpet is such that you can't even shut and lock the door. So just like forever. So just having a door that shut was like euphoria. It was
Yeah.
amazing.
That I can
Um,
picture that with the carpet so much because you can wind it up and then you just try to fucking and then it just.
it was it's just endless torture.
What did you think you wanted to do? Like, why'd you pick English?
I was always writing. I was writing like opulent poems and short
Mm.
stories and things like that. It was such like just classic hopeless romantic. I loved Shakespeare and everything. And
Really?
yeah.
Would you get forlorn over crushes?
Oh my God, that was my whole life.
Really?
It was food and getting obsessed over crushes.
Would the crushes did any of them come to be?
One did, but this was when I was already in college. Like
Mm.
anything pre-college, no. It was just I worked with a guy who was like my muse for 3 years, and it was just this. He had a girlfriend, but he was still flirty, so it was like this constant will they, won't they. But I
Mm.
didn't know anything about. I was so sheltered from being Muslim, but I didn't know anything. Like But I just love that feeling of longing. I say I have a fetish for longing. Like I just love that.
I love longing, and I love that high in the beginning of a relationship.
Yeah.
Because I get the longing, and then the first 6 months of a relationship, I feel like 3 months, 3 to 6, euphoria of the possibility before the reality of who you are, the compromise and all that sets in. That's why, like, I've been in a lot of relationships.
It's nice. It's weird, but like the older I get, it's I that feeling of you're not being yourself yet. It's two people. You're seeing the best versions of yourself, and everything's great. And it's like fake in a way, but it's also
Absolutely
nice. It's kind of nice.
You get to be. It makes it for that time. It makes it feel like you are that person a little bit because someone sees you like that. In the beginning, when someone's like, "Oh, you're this and you're that," I'm like, "Give it a minute." You know, now I'll make it fade quicker because I'm like, I just know what I'm like. Okay, I'm 34. It's like textbook. So now I try to keep that facade actually shorter because I know, I don't want to deal with the whole fucking shit.
You know, that's nice that you can still even do the facade. I feel like now I have it took me years to get over social anxiety and not being myself to people. So now it's euphoric to not have that filter and that facade at all, but like you just dive right into somebody when you meet them. It's kind of much, maybe, I don't know, but it's fun. I think it's fun.
Have you seen Nick Griffin, who's a comic in New York? He has a joke about like in your 40s going to first date, and he thinks that you should just each get all your pill bottles out on a table and like, I'm paraphrasing it, but just be like, this is what, and just say all your problems are. And I'm like, yeah, I am ebbing towards that a little bit now.
It ruins some of the magic, but it's also funny. I think it's funny.
It is kind of funny, especially with career stuff. If someone asks about something like that on a date, maybe the first date I'll be like, oh, da, da, and then by the second date I'm like, look, it's fucking brutal. I constantly am spiraling. I don't feel one, and they're like, what? But the first date I'll still.
That's nice of you. Play it cool for exactly one date.
Yeah, I give myself that. I'm in a relationship now. I'm in a relationship for a year. This is my longest relationship.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's crazy. Can't believe it. But so you studied English because what did you think you wanted to do? Did you have an idea of entertainment, or was it?
No, that was a complete accident. It was, I don't know. I did English and philosophy, and I
did philosophy too.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, that makes sense for comedians. I think constantly thinking about shit. I just wanted to be a nerd. I was going to go to grad school for either subject. I was looking into, because Rutgers just accidentally happened to be top 3 in the world philosophy departments. So I was getting like amazing professors and classes, and I really loved it. So I was just going to go to grad school. And then my junior year, a stand-up competition just came around, and my philosophy friend was trying out, and I can't even recall why. I was like, I'll do it too. It didn't make any sense.
Because did you watch comedy?
Yeah, I always loved it. I grew up watching The Simpsons and like weird stuff.
I saw that. I thought that was interesting. So your mom wasn't strict with what you were watching. She was just strict with what you were doing, or did she not know you were watching that stuff?
I couldn't watch like South Park. That was her rules, but like I don't think she knew enough about American culture to be like, you should watch this or that. So it wasn't quite as strict. I mean, I couldn't technically watch like a rated R movie if I was at home or something like that, but I don't remember like super strict restrictions with that. It was more about activities and boys and stuff.
Right. I wonder what she thought would happen if you did hang out with a boy. She just thought you'd be like blowing him immediately.
Right? Like, it's unclear. It was just the concept of like being next to one that was a problem. Which is funny because like all my friends now are dudes just because of like comedy. But like when I was growing up, it was just all girls. But yeah,
so you did that. You entered that, and then you're like, this is it.
Well, I entered it, and then I got to the finals, and then I won, and I just got addicted because, like, compounded with how much social anxiety I had and inability to communicate with people, I just suddenly found this way of communicating, and people liked what I wanted to say. That was just, like, crazy feeling, and I got addicted to it. So I think that's why I just had to keep doing it. If I wasn't such, like, a mess of a person and, like, had all that weird social stuff, I don't think I would have done it.
Do you think you would have had social anxiety if you had a different, like if you grew up differently, or do you think it was nature or nurture?
I definitely think it would have been so much different because I remember even when I was like a kid before like middle school and things started getting weird with my mom and stuff, I was so outgoing. I was almost like a
Oh,
bully.
really?
Yeah, I was like almost like a bully to boys.
Hmm.
I was like a wild kid, and I remember that going away because of all this like religion
Mm-hmm.
shit, just like ruining stuff. But even with my close friends, I was still like out like funny and out. I was like the funny one, but
Mm.
when it came to like strangers or like groups of people, I couldn't handle that at all.
Do you recharge from being alone or other
Um,
people?
it switches. It kind of switches. Like right now, it's weird just because of the quarantine. I'm like I
Sure.
really want to hang out with people, but like normally I'm like fine. I like it's either I want like a crazy party where like I'm fucked up and everyone's fucked up, or I like a small group of people
Sure.
or just like couple people, yeah, or myself or just being alone. I grew up spending a lot of time alone in my room, so like that's kind of the
Yeah, I feel very
default.
comfortable being alone. Although now with quarantine, it does kick it up to a whole other level. You
Yeah.
know, where you're like, will you tell me? I read about it, but I like the story a lot about the when you entered the Apollo style one. And I gotta tell you, I was in the Caribbean Culture Association at my school.
Oh shit.
We didn't have our school was really small, so we didn't have we did a talent show, but it wasn't like that. But so ours was mostly a Haitian student organization. Obviously, I am not Haitian. I joined it because my friend asked me to be in it for like, she was like, till I find someone who's Haitian, can you help me with the PR? Because I thought I was going to do PR before I realized how dyslexic I am. And blah, 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 blah. So it was just a weird situation. I just kind of stayed in the group, but I was in it. So I thought that, Rutgers is huge. So will you tell me the story? Because I liked reading about it.
Totally, yeah. I had another, I think he's Haitian, comedian friend, and he was like, "Come do this contest with me." So I show up with him, and like, it's just, I'm literally the only not black person
And
there.
had you done something since your big win?
I feel I was doing comedy pretty consistently,
Okay.
just at local Rutgers stuff, and maybe even the Stress Factory at this point. I don't really remember, but it was early on, first few years of doing comedy, and he even told me as soon as I got there, like, all these girls hate you because they think we're dating. Like I was like, I don't know what's going on. I just
Jesus.
came to do some comedy, and then first of all, they were being mean to everybody. Like
Mm.
everyone was getting bullied. And also, this is such a horrible idea, but there were two giant screens on the stage where people could live tweet about the person who was performing. It was just a complete nightmare
Oh, I didn't
situation.
get that from the thing. I saw you. Oh, Jesus. So you could see the tweets in real time?
Yeah, and that's
I'm gonna
obviously
shoot
all
myself.
anybody was focusing on.
Yeah, I'm gonna
It's
shoot
like
myself. Just hearing about this, I'm gonna shoot myself.
it was so crazy. It's so funny that I even did it. Like I should have just left, but so everyone's like there's like one singer who like people like and then everyone's kind of getting roasted a little bit. So it's my turn. I'm like, well, I'm the only not black. I look white. I think it'd be funny. I just went up and I was like, howdy, y'all. And then, as though they choreographed it, everyone started booing simultaneously. So much so that the host had to come back out and be like, guys, you have to give her like a 5 second grace period before you start booing. And then I just started doing my jokes. I didn't even know what jokes I was doing at the time, but I couldn't focus. I just wanted to
Sure.
read the screen
Right.
and I got like one joke out, and then I was reading, and people were so mean. I was still fat. They were calling me Roseanne. It was just so bad.
Could you see
And
who was doing the tweeting? Like, could you
you
see were
could
people on?
see the handles. Yeah, so when I got back to my seat, I was stalking them and sending them death threats, and then I left.
So you stood up for yourself,
I still left. I just
right?
shamefully had to leave. But then I texted my friend to find out who won or what happened. They were like, they had to call it off because a fight broke out. So
Jesus
it
Christ!
didn't even continue. It was just wild.
Imagine you won. And you're like, oh, like this is how they
Yeah.
show love. What do you think made you do it again after that?
I was just addicted. I just
Yeah.
still thought it was fun. I don't know what it would have taken. I was also just sort of tunnel vision. Like it never even occurred to me that I could do something else or could stop, and it wasn't even a
Mm.
question. It was such a strong feeling.
Isn't that interesting that it's a compulsion? That's why when people are like, oh, if you could do anything else, you should, because you don't have the option really. That's why you do. That's why it is all the things that it takes to do it, because I just have to do it.
It's weird. There were all these other things I was interested in and I wanted to do, and it just suddenly swooped in and took over. And it's something I think about now that I'm like, this is such a brutal thing to do. Why did I choose the most torturous path? I had other options, but that was the power of it. And because it was my only way of communicating my real self to people, I just kept doing it.
I went to that therapist, the comedy therapist too. I saw that you went one time. I think I went 4. I did not fucking. Was it you didn't like therapy, or was it him? I didn't connect with him.
Yeah, I think it was both. Honestly, I had the one session and then just like cried the whole way, and I was like, I think I'm good. I think I'm cured.
He didn't say anything. Like, you just cried.
Pretty much. Well, no, he was saying things, and I was like, I feel like you're just using the canned comedian response to everything I'm saying, just like putting me in the mold of like, these are probably your problems because you're a comedian.
Right.
I don't know if that's what you experienced, but
I saw him. I remember being like, oh, this is great that he sees comedians, so he's not. I was always scared that I'd see a therapist and they'd tell me not to do comedy. So I thought they'd be like, oh, because I did see one in grad school, and she did say that. She's like, to be fair to her, I was very defensive. So she was like, well, maybe if you did comedy less, you'd feel better. Because I was like running around doing open mics and trying to balance school. And I took that as that I shouldn't do comedy. So I was like, she doesn't get it. She had to get me, even though I'm sure that was good advice. But when I saw him, I was drinking a lot. And I remember one time I came in hungover and he said I looked like shit. And he used the word shit. And I was like, he was like, you look like shit. And I was like,
what?
Yeah. And I was like, I don't want to, this isn't like.
Appropriate.
Yeah. And he actually asked me to promote his son's movie one time. And this is before there's no reason to ask me to promote anything anyway, but he asked me that. He was like, I know you have a lot of family in Boston. Can you promote this movie? And I knew enough to be like, that's wrong. And I blocked him and didn't go back.
That's weird considering he probably had, no offense, bigger comedians he could have asked.
Absolutely. None taken. I was like, first of all, your target marketing's fucked up. Second of all, it's an inappropriate question. Maybe if it was a bigger comedian, they would have been. I truly don't know what he was thinking, but I was like, I'm impressed that you haven't gone back or done like group therapy or anything.
Yeah, well, like I said, I was always sorting shit out in my head and kind of just doing it in my own way, and like, I don't know, that's kind of always how I learned to figure stuff out. So, but I think there is some benefit to being in a room and just being able to say everything and get it out and leave. But then I think there's a trap with therapy where you're constantly looking into your past, and I think that can affect just like focusing on the future if you're always dwelling on like, well, what's the cause in my past because of this, instead of like, well, what can I do now to go forward?
It's usually always the parents too. I mean, it's usually like, let me guess, like I'm gonna connect this to fucking them, that.
Exactly, yeah. I feel like my causes are pretty clear.
Right. Sometimes it pops up in ways you wouldn't have. Yeah, I feel like my therapist usually is just like, well, how did you feel with this when you were a kid? But I've been getting the therapy for free, so that's why I've been doing it.
Oh, that's great. You got the
Yeah, I got the hookup. My mom said she'd pay for therapy. And I felt really guilty about that, and then I decided to take her up on it. So I've been doing
every parent, it's their fault. They should be the one funding it. That makes sense to me.
That's what I dated a therapist, and she said that basically. Don't feel bad if there's anything a parent should pay for it. But I'm sure there's people with it wasn't their parents that you don't think so.
No, I think so. I think there's definitely parents who are good, and then like the Columbine shooters.
Yeah. We don't know. Maybe their parents were fucking brutal.
From my research, it seems like they were just good parents, and then I'm not sure if I'm thinking of the right tragedy. I'm pretty sure it was Columbine, that their parents were just like did everything they could, but the kids were still fucked up. So I think that happens sometimes.
I'm sure. Absolutely. Yeah. What's your relationship with God now? Do you identify as an atheist?
I used to be hard. Like when I was in high school and really rejecting Islam, I was like, I'm an atheist, like Richard Dawkins style, hardcore. But as I grow older, I'm like, we actually don't know that much. Like the Big Bang, that doesn't really make sense. It's kind of like this thing that we say and we subscribe to, but we actually still don't really know a lot. And
yeah, it even sounds made up. Like it was a Big Bang. Like,
Yeah.
what kind of bag? It was big. It was something like something Trump would say, kind of.
Yeah. So I'm always reevaluating based on new scientific knowledge, and like when I read more about like quantum physics and stuff like that, the world is so bizarre and confusing, and we don't know, we know like this much about what's actually happening. So I don't blame people for being religious. I don't necessarily believe in a big man in the sky, but it wouldn't surprise me if there was some kind of force in the world.
Sometimes I think that time doesn't exist and it's all one moment and we just tap into different like parts of that reality. There's the higher consciousness, the lower consciousness. We have control and agency over it, but it feels like it's always hard for me to understand like what's the difference between this moment and okay, I have a distinct memory of being at the Boston Comedy Festival with you years ago. Yeah. I remember that. I just have this distinct moment right before the competition. I just really remember that. What's the difference between this moment and whatever the next moment is? I have a very hard time processing that. It all feels like it's one big thing that you can tap into, but it's very hard for me to process.
Yeah, I'm the same. And time is just like this product of our consciousness. So it's not this thing in the world. Like it's the way that our brains happen to organize our lives. So, have you seen Dark on Netflix?
Never heard of it, but I'm fucking desperate for. I need to watch new stuff. Like the other day, my girlfriend was like, "We need to cancel Netflix. We've watched everything," and I was like, "It's not good."
You have to watch Dark. Okay. I've talked about it like on every podcast episode I do. I'm surprised that you haven't. Didn't
come across it. I was going back to like older ones too.
No,
stop! I was saying something wrong.
It like is life changing, I feel, and it's about time travel, but it's about so much more than that. I think it's the best show I've seen. I put it up with The Sopranos. It's nothing like The Sopranos, but in terms of the complexity and the writing and the characters and everything, and it's specifically about time. And I think you should watch it before you cancel Netflix.
Yeah, I'm not canceling that over my dead body. How did your job at Nickelodeon come about?
So I had an internship with Comedy Central in college, and then having that on my resume is just like an in to get more Viacom jobs. Like I've had like 3 different Viacom channel jobs. So Nickelodeon was my first like actual paid job as a result of the internship, I think.
How was the Comedy Central internship? Like, was that when you went for that, were you like, I gotta get this? Or what, were you gunning for it?
I really wanted it because I was already doing comedy at the time. I still remember that interview. I have a lot of crazy memories of job interviews because I was just still so anxious that it's shocking anybody hired me. And anyone who worked with me would be like, there's no way she's a comedian. She couldn't form words around us. So I remember the interview, and I still talk to her. She's great, and she just must have taken mercy on me, and maybe she had her own anxiety growing up because it was such an awkward interview. I was like stone-faced, probably didn't smile even once. It's just so awkward, and yet she still hired me. So,
do you think you were looking down? Do you think you made eye contact with her?
I probably just very flittingly made eye contact. I don't know. I've had so many weird ones. I've had phone interviews where they'll ask a question and my brain literally shuts off and it's just silent for 30 seconds. And I'll just be like, I'm not getting the job right. I gotta go.
Yeah, I already fucked this up.
So yeah, every job I had was a miracle that I got it. And I would also end up being fired specifically because I would not speak in meetings. Like all my jobs I lost for being weird. Yeah.
I lost all my jobs because I just didn't know. I wouldn't know how to do it. I had a sales job where they'd be like, "Good at you." We've never seen someone make that amount of effort and achieve nothing.
That's cool.
I guess I was like, I would always try. I would be calling. I could do the calls, but then I could never close a deal. I've never sold one thing in my entire life. Ever. One time, almost. But
that's a specific skill. You have to really just dom people. I don't know how to do that in conversation.
Can't do it. And also if someone's like, I can't afford it. Good. Totally get it, buddy. Have a good one.
You have to be willing to manipulate people. Like, that's a special thing.
I feel like I would think I could manipulate people because I've lied a lot. I've really lied in relationships a lot. It's where the worst of me's come out. So I would think I could lie in sales, but I guess not.
Interesting. Yeah, that's weird.
I just didn't. So they would fire you because you didn't talk in meetings? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's hard to. I would be in meetings and literally say nothing and then send an email like, here are all my ideas. I just couldn't. I was afraid. I was afraid of showing that I didn't know what I was doing. I remember one time my boss was really gunning for me. She like liked me, but it was clear that I had some issues with communicating. And she was just like, yeah, none of us know what we're doing. This is social media. It's still new at this point. It's early, or like 2012 or 13
Bless
or
her.
something. Yeah, it's like we're all throwing shit at the wall, and that made me so mad. I was like, then why is everyone so confident? Why does everyone act like they know what they're doing? I'm afraid to show that I don't know what I'm doing. That's why I don't talk.
Right.
So just this thing that clicked, like, oh, everyone's faking it. Everybody's faking it.
Bless her. Did you feel more comfortable talking after that?
No, no, I would still just send the emails, and that was not good enough. She eventually quit, and then the other person who fired me, she was like, she liked you, but we're not.
Right. We know what we're doing. And maybe it also pointed out that if you weren't speaking because you didn't know what you were doing, then it's calling them out because they're speaking, but they don't know what they're doing. So it's like, well, what? We could all just sit and think about it more instead of just whatever you guys are doing.
Yeah, maybe that. I don't know. But I was good at I was always doing like copywriting and stuff, and I was good at it. It was just that social aspect that people felt were uncomfortable.
Did you ever go to an office party?
Oh my God, I think I must have. The thing is, I was always I never wanted to go, but I felt like I had to go because if I didn't go, they would be able to talk about me behind my back and talk about how weird I am.
But I'm 100% confident that's how everybody feels about office parties.
100%. Well, I know that now. But
yeah.
It's like I think I'm the only one that feels this way. So I wouldn't go to many. I would definitely skip a lot of. I remember people at the beginning would try to ask me to lunch. When I first got a job, they'd be like, "Come have lunch with us," and I would say nothing, and they'd be like, "Okay, good." Mutual silence restored.
That's tough to say nothing when someone asks you for lunch. That's like
it didn't even click to me that they did this for my benefit to get to know each other. It was like I was such a psycho. Yeah.
Did you think they were gonna lecture you or something?
No, I just never felt comfortable speaking to strangers. It's just a weird thing in my brain. I would lock up. I wouldn't know. Also, I felt like now as a comedian, it's fine, but I had a fucked up sense of humor, and I didn't know if I should say something or not. And like,
did you have a bad time where that happened, where you said something you shouldn't have, and people were like, "Too far, too far, too far"?
Probably not, because I probably never felt okay. Maybe like in my adult life, I've done that. I don't know, but not back then. No way.
Yeah, because if you do it when you're a comedian, then it's more okay, more, you know.
Yeah, once you've established, like, this is my
right,
yeah.
right, yeah. Because fuck, I always say his name wrong. I won't, but I did. I posted one thing. You can Google it. There was a whole incident about a joke that she told that got a lot of backlash. Just crazy. But I posted one thing, just a hashtag on someone else's page for you, and I remember I can't even imagine. I was like, what? I started getting all these X heads on a picture of my niece, and then someone wrote, they hope my niece got cancer, and I was like, what the fuck? Didn't even connect, because I think I had posted Team Dinah, like, maybe a day before, so I had forgotten, and then I was like, what? And then when I figured it out, and I think I left it for a week, and then I took the team thing down, I folded when they got
I don't blame you.
Niece cancer thing. I mean, Jesus Christ.
It was such a unique experience it was sort of life-changing. Like, I just could not believe what people were willing to say and do.
Truly. Yeah, I remember. Was that 2 years ago?
It was July 19th. No, it was last year. It was last year.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I'll touch on it in the intro, but it was like just insanity. Total, like, the timing of it, and it was like truly, like, I mean, I had never actually heard of that person either, but
yeah,
I don't know I'm not really up on pop culture, but so I hadn't heard of that person. So, I mean, has it died down? Is it gone?
It's not gone, which is it's so funny how persistent they are. It's not what it was. Like, what it was completely insane. I'll get like average of 2 messages a day, and they're funny. It's I can only laugh now. Like, I used to, it was scary at the beginning because I didn't know what was a real threat or not. I just had no gauge of like how dangerous anybody was, what was actually going on. I was getting mixed answers from people over how serious it was. And then as time passed and it was clear that probably nothing's going to happen in reality, it's just, I read them and I laugh. It's just
good.
Funny how crazy people are and how young people are and what they're willing to say. Somebody will be like, I'm going to rape you. And I look at their profile and they're like 13 years old. It's just the internet has rotted people's minds. I really worry for the future of
What do you think's going to happen? You think it would get worse, or do you think there'll be some kind of maybe Corona's going to wipe things out to the point where people are more, even as I'm saying it, I don't see that happening per se, but what do you think? Like, you think people get worse from media? Continue to?
people, like their personalities?
Yeah, because the way that people are, definitely, the more things you can post on and be anonymous to, I wonder if it can keep going the way it is. Because at some point, I feel like there has to be some... But the trick would be then, will it be censorship? And then what happens there?
Censorship is coming. I mean, it's already pretty much here.
Right.
I don't know if they're going to censor, like, the type of thing that happened to me, because that's actually good for these platforms. That's a big secret. There should be rules against doxing and mobbing, but when someone gets mobbed, it's so much engagement.
Oh, I never thought of that. You're right. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's crazy that they allow it. It's so amoral. It's horrible.
Really, I remember when I heard about it through someone. I think it was a comedian was like, have you heard what's happening? And when they said it was to you, I was like, what? That is so not, I hadn't even heard I was like, I cannot picture in a million years what you could have said. And then when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is a misunderstanding of humor, and also it's displaced anger that people are looking to lash out over this, like, this death. So it's like, it was a big bang of bad timing, I guess.
I could write a thesis on it. Like, there was so many different agendas getting involved, and it was so many different kinds of people who were mad and for different reasons, and I just became the target for all these different things. And a lot of people were like, what? Like, the last person to suspect. I also didn't know who that guy was. The funniest part is, like, I didn't know. Like, comedians are just looking for the funniest thing to say and, like, the funniest, like, angle.
Right.
So I didn't know this was somebody who everyone gets attacked if they say something bad about that guy. So everybody, like Pitchfork, the website, when they were posting things about, like, the bad shit he's done, got trolled for a year. So just something that happens whenever you talk about that guy. So, and
it was not even a joke about something bad he had done. It was literally about him having a bunch of cash on him and it being an ad for Venmo. So there was no judgment on his character. It was literally a joke about a unique take on, it was funny. It was a joke about the cash and the whoo.
Also, the point I was trying to make was that, like, you could replace his name for literally any celebrity.
Exactly.
And it work the same way, which is how you know it's not even about him. But didn't matter.
Right. Where were you when you first started getting the backlash for that?
I think I was in my apartment and I saw Comedy Central tweeted it and I was excited at first. Like, I didn't even know they were going to post it. Mm-hmm. And then I retweeted it at first, and then I started seeing some backlash trickle in, just a little bit, like, that's fucked up, just like, that's disrespectful, little things like that. And then I saw a post from another comedian on Instagram. That was the first, like, big platform that I saw, and that was, like, a whole separate thing of, like, why the fuck are you going to do that? But anyway.
So weird.
He posted it, and then from there, this huge, like, news network on Instagram caught wind of it, and they posted it, and that's when everything really went out of control.
Did they post it with an angle, or did they just post it?
Oh, yeah, with an angle. No, all the angles were negative. People were posting it negatively. And I remember texting my manager, I think this might be a problem. And then it so quickly got out of control. It's funny how quickly it went insane.
Insane. I hope when I got because I was, like, getting engagement and where I was like all these comments or something, I'm like, oh, I was at my fucking sister's house. And then I didn't know what it was. I couldn't even place, so I can't even imagine it being so far removed from anything, like, so far. The niece getting cancer I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck?
What's funny is that I tried to combat it at first. When people were first getting mad, I thought it was funny. I was like, fuck you guys. So I posted on Instagram a note that was like, I said in the joke that it was tragic. I was not making fun of his death, but also this guy was doing bad things and he's not a martyr. I shouldn't have done that.
But also, fuck that guy and his shitty rap career. Am I right?
And I tried to get some sympathy by saying my own father beat my pregnant mom and I wouldn't even wish death upon him, thinking it would get sympathy.
Now, I think that was a good move. Now, now is, I know can't make sales and I'm not good. I think that was a good I would have opened with that. I would have been like, I didn't have a room as a child and I'm confused. I would have brought it all. I would have left it all on the fucking floor. Like, this is everything.
I thought I was being so clever. Had the complete opposite effect. It was just like, how dare you your dad should have killed your mom so that you weren't born. It just went the opposite direction.
What the fuck? Have you ever met any of these people face to face?
Not that I know of, for
Okay.
all I know. For all I know, I have, but I don't think so. But I would DM some of them back. Some of the ones who are just like self-righteously posting, like, how dare she not go kill yourself, but just self-righteous, I would DM them and be like, hey, I'm happy to have a conversation about this. No answer, because it was never about that. It was never about, let's have a discussion about what was wrong with the joke. It was just about this fake outrage and like self-righteousness, or just crazy kids who just, so.
It's interesting that you were able to do that, like, thinking about that initially you had social anxiety, because that's something that would probably being able to engage is a pretty, I would think you've come a long way in the social anxiety front to be able to confront that.
Oh yeah, no, like my life was just changed. I was a different person before I started doing comedy. It's wild how different I am and how much more willing I am to engage strangers, or that's just a process of comedy. You're dealing with strangers, you're talking to them. Yeah, no, it just became funny going back and forth. I would troll some of the trolls. Like,
really?
I had one, this was after everything settled down. I felt comfortable doing that. Like, at first I was just scared. I had one person who was like, I'm going to come kill you. I have your address. And I was like, the FBI monitors my feed for threats like this, so I'm sorry that you seem young, but your family's going to get a phone call. And they freaked the fuck out. And then I had to calm them down. It became
Jesus.
I felt
What do you mean freaked out? Like, they were like, oh my God, my life is over. I'm on a scholarship to be a fellowship in peace and change and justice.
They were a teenager and they were like, why just me? Other people are doing it. Why? I don't understand. And I was like, it's not up to me. Sorry. He was like, can you tell them that? I was like, it's not up to me. Sorry. And then they were like, I'm really sorry. I actually regretted sending those messages after I sent them. I didn't mean them.
Get the fuck out of here.
But I relented. I was like, it's okay. You'll probably be fine. Don't worry about it.
I'll put in a good word for the FBI guy.
Yeah.
And you're like, now this has gone on for 2 hours. Why am I engaging with this fucking kid?
He blocked me. He was really freaked out. Yeah.
You had a quote about writing that I thought was really interesting. You said, you were talking about your writing process, and then in the beginning you said jokes would just come to me fully formed, which is really convenient because I'm lazy, like blah, 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 blah. And then you said, but now these days it's harder. I feel like all the stuff that just had come to me has probably come to me, and now I have to sit down and try to work on a joke, which usually doesn't work, so it takes a long time. I relate to that shit. Yeah. Things used to just fucking come to me, and it makes me so, I don't understand what happened. I know what my theory for me is then I started studying too much and caring too much and dissecting everything too much. So right when I go to write, I start to edit. I'll think of something, and instead of letting myself loop around to it, I start cutting things, and it's a fuck. But what is it? What happens?
I'm still trying to understand it. I think it's just the longer that we do this, the like more ideas we've already done, and it's harder to have like new things, new ideas about things. I think that's one part of it. I also think it's like, in a way, stand-up became less fun. It becomes work. It becomes more work because you're trying to make it your career. And so I think it's a mindset thing also. Like, I was having more fun, so I just naturally had more ideas all the time.
So you felt like you were having fun when you first started?
Yeah, I think the most fun I had doing it was the first 5 years. And then once it became, I would need this to make money for me, it's a little bit of the joy fled. So I think it's a mix of all those things. Also, I guess my brain just, I don't know. I actually don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out. It's still rough to try to think of new things. I never had a process. I think it's a matter of just doing the work. I forget which like designer it was on one of that design documentary on Netflix. It was like, when you're a professional, you can't just sit around waiting for inspiration. You have to sit down and actually get to work. And it's like, that's not fun. And those aren't my best ideas, but I have to get over that. I don't know.
Is it, because sometimes listening to recordings will help, and I'll then come up with stuff off of that, but it's different than it I don't know if there's a way to go back and recapture that, but there's still some things that I'll say that, and I actually had my manager listen to a set, and he was like, oh, I like these ones. I go, those are actually things I wrote years ago in Boston. when I was like doing open mics and bar shows that I've just kept mushed in with other stuff. And I was like, and those are the 3 that you liked from that. So and he was like, oh, wow. And I was like, yeah, that was like, so.
It's brutal. It's brutal. I think it is from that freshness and that excitement that aids the things just coming into your head. At least that's how it is for me. I don't know. I think there must be a way to get back into that mindset. And I think it has to do with reeling back from this like, professional sort of thing. Like, I think maybe, I don't know. You don't have a job besides comedy, right?
No. When I first started, I was doing some kind of sales thing that was like really easy. Like a bunch of actors did it and we got paid per the hour, and I was in school. So that was very cushy. And then when I graduated, I freaked out and was like, how can I have a job? I don't know how I'm going to have a day job and do stand up at night. Moved back to Boston, lived with my mom for a year. It was great. Best year of my life. Saw a therapist twice a week. She was amazing.
Awesome.
So if you find the right therapist, it can be, I still think about things she said.
Wow.
She was so good. She said I put her on a pedestal, but I thought she deserved it. She was great. And then when I got to New York, I got into the college circuit really quick because I had taken the full year off, but then I started doing schools. I didn't have the time, and then I was just doing it professionally. So before I should have been, but I wonder almost like maybe having that, I don't know. Now I don't know how much I could handle, but I was like, I'll fantasize. What if I had a 9-to-5 job and then I was structuring my time? But I've had writing jobs, and then I have not. That has not helped me write more with stand-up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I went back and forth between having a day job and then doing comedy, and then also just being unemployed and only doing comedy. And I think there's pros and cons with your ability to write that way. Because like when I had the job, I would hate it so much that I would be thinking of fun things. But then when I didn't have the job, I was also so freaked about making money, so I couldn't. So you would think it'd be like having more time would allow you to think of more stuff, but then there's the stress of worrying about money. So I don't know. It's a matter of finding the right conditions that make your brain as creative as possible.
Sure. Have you always been critical of the government? I'm just basing that you're critical of the government from your first episode of your podcast. Like, where did that come from? Was your mom critical of it? Or like, was it you just being like, hey, things aren't what they're telling you?
Basic MO throughout life was trying to find out the truth. I was just always on a hunt for what is really going on. I think that comes from like having religion shoved down my face, and it doesn't make sense, and I want to know what's actually happening. Hence the philosophy, hence the stand-up. I mean,
totally.
You get it. Yeah. So in that, I was just always thinking and making connections and like researching and like just reading stuff, and just through logic, I think anybody can sit down and realize that it's not in the government's incentive to tell you the truth at all. It's the opposite. So once you come to that conclusion, then you start questioning everything they say, and then start just figuring it out. And so yeah, I guess it's just I've always just been trying to figure out what's going on versus what this like layer of theater is.
You feel like them as much as corporate. I know everything is in bed together, and with corporate, I think about capitalism a lot, and benefited from capitalism as a kid. I don't put benefits in quotes, but I always had whatever I wanted financially. And I remember when I first started feeling trapped, I would think that I would remember, and this is really I would remember that my mom, that I had access to money through my mom. And I would be like, well, these people I might be in special ed, and I might be like fat and gay and but I'm gonna get out of here. And I clung to that. So I would always just I was obsessed with money, and I was obsessed with I'm gonna get rich. Fuck you, I'm gonna get rich. So I was obsessed with it, but it obviously wasn't benefiting me. But I wonder, in the real way, I just thought it was, because I was like, I hated everybody, and I think of money as I win.
Well, that's how you create the world we live in. It's a bunch of people who become psychopath CEOs because of that feeling of I'm going to fuck everyone over because they felt fucked over in some way or whatever. That's my hypothesis. I don't know. But there are people who are born rich and still end up like that, like Trump. So, but of course, rich parents don't make for good parents in most cases, I think. So. And
if you're born rich, there's always someone richer.
Right.
And that's what you ascribe your self-worth on, and it is really just a whole fuck. Because you're like, I might have access to this, I'm comfortable, but and then when you're in that circle, there's some fucking hedge fund who invented the peanut, and it's like money you've never even
Yeah. Yeah, you have to be careful when you're young, which it's not even in your control of what you find that's going to give you value and fill the void. Yeah, it's very tricky. Like for me, it just happened to be art and love, and I
Mm.
feel thankful for that. But for some people, it's money, and then it really fucks the world up.
And money will never fill the void.
Exactly, it's a
I mean,
never-ending.
ever. Because I like don't have access to that like I did when I was a kid. It will never. It doesn't. It's not a real. It's not real in the way that if you're on the hunt for it is. Not to put you on the spot, but what do you think would work? What do you think if it wasn't capital? Like, is there? And also capitalism, the racism as the bed of capitalism, because to have the benefit of the othering people, so I get this pre-existing privilege off of your soul and back, that is the layers of, and then keep these people so they don't know, so I can, it behooves people for them to not know about this, to not know about capitalism, because then you can profit off it. And how do we even untangle that? Do you think socialism will work? What would be if you were president and you had a cleaner slate than we have now? So you don't have to fix a bunch of stuff. Like if you're president, what do you think you would do? I've never asked anyone that before either.
It's
Don't feel any
interesting
pressure.
because it's a big question.
It's
I
a big
think about it
question.
a lot.
You do.
I think now we tend to pin our ideas of what will solve society's problems on an economic system, and I don't think that's quite true. The most like humanitarian countries are democratic socialists basically, but they're capitalists. Like if you think of a place like Norway, it's a capitalist country, but it's also has huge social services. Everyone gets healthcare, and school is extremely affordable or free in a lot of cases, and it's a capitalist society. But their culture is different. It's like people grow up and it just they have different values and they're taught to think of themselves as a real community. And it's a smaller country, it's easy to do. So I think our culture is really the biggest issue. And we do have all of these insane billionaires and just actual mentally ill people running the country. So even if we change the system, if we don't fix the cultural problem and those people who we allow to gain power, then it's not going to solve our problem. I also think capitalism objectively has raised poverty levels around the world. So,
Sure.
but also at the same.
People are literally like capitalizing on.
Oh, I said it backwards. I meant it's actually lifted people out of
It
poverty.
has.
It's the
Oh.
opposite. It's actually lifted a lot of the world out of poverty if you just look at the data. But at the same time, because we have this very corrupt and greedy, and we have cronyism basically, the capitalism that we
I
have
don't know
right
what that
now.
is.
It's totally corrupt, and it's also
Cronyism.
yeah. And it's also based on exploiting people around the world for their labor. And it's something we don't talk about enough in this country, as much as we talk about our problems here and the problems with capitalism because of disenfranchised neighborhoods and people here, which is absolutely true. It needs to be solved. It's also so much more extreme, the things we do to people around the world. And so it's crazy when you like see the things people complain about here, and yet slavery exists in a real way around the world because of us. When we buy a $15 t-shirt, somebody's paying for that in the world, and we don't think about it. And it's great. Like we tweet on our phones about how unfair things are here, and the phone is made by a fucking child in China. So
I think Ronnie Chang, I think, has a joke about. He's got a really good. It touches on that, about the hypocrisy of where people are. I'm really butchering the premise, but where people are tweeting and getting the things that they're tweeting on, kind of thing.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
You would think that these people made these phones to be like, now people are going to have knowledge at their fingertips to find out what's happening to us. And it's
Right.
like the opposite. It's, oh no.
Right? Yeah.
It's
Fuck.
this ego blame deflection thing where like the people who are responsible for the most evil seem to have this like force field around them where we don't unite as a country, and it's focused on those people at the very top. We tend to fight each other, like form these like coalitions that are fake and blue, like it's not real, and it's frustrating to watch. You think we would figure it out by now.
Is it because those people are so mysterious, those super wealthy, and we wouldn't even know where to direct it? Because sometimes it's like, where would we even begin with that when they're not even, or we don't even know how to comprehend access to them?
There are certainly people who are in the shadows who run things and we don't know their names, but there are people we do know their names. There are like people like Bezos and this guy Bernard something who owns LVMH, which basically owns every single designer company in the world, Louis Vuitton, just any luxury brand you can think of. This one fucking guy.
Was he the guy was he in Jeffrey Epstein, or is that the other guy? The guy that owns Victoria's
Buzz
Secret?
Lightyear.
Okay, yeah.
he's evil as well.
Yes.
But this guy's in France, and it's crazy how much money he has, and no one knows. He likes to stay private, which I think you would want to do if you're an evil billionaire.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a problem of that, although that is a problem. I think it's a problem of organization where people like to get extremely mad at social issues here, which they should be, but also if we could realize that we need to unite the classes against the thieving corporate elite, we could actually get somewhere in a meaningful way, which is why I think Bernie's movement was so powerful, because it was based in economics and policy and classism.
Was he who you were going for?
Yeah, I liked him. I know this is controversial to say, but I liked Tulsi. She was smeared in the media.
I didn't even hear about her.
Tulsi Gabbard?
No.
She's the one who actually destroyed Kamala during the debates and ruined her campaign.
Oh, really? See, I didn't start watching until later. And Bernie Sanders, I got stuck at one of his rallies. I was on a date, and I was walking through Prospect Park, and we were walking one way, and his rally got out as we were walking, and we got stuck. And so it tainted my view of him, because I was trying to have this date, and then all of a sudden we were like, we couldn't move in this giant, I repent. So I didn't listen. I remember being like, this fucking guy. But,
That's fair.
It was, we couldn't get out of Prospect Park where it was. We were like stuck with all these Bernie supporters trying to go one way, and they were going another way, and his voice was like booming everywhere, and we had this awkward, like trying to like get to know each. It was a whole fuck up of a situation. The timing was our fault. It was a mess, but I didn't listen to him as much as I wish I had. I wish I had watched the debates sooner, but I'll Google that guy, because I'm following it now.
Okay, yeah. I liked her, I liked him, and I thought Yang was a fine choice as well. And the thing is, I think these are also the people that most people in this country would get behind. It's just that there's so much subterfuge and DNC corruption that it's that force field thing of just there's always a way to prevent people from getting in trouble who should get in trouble. Although there's a lot of awareness about how fucked up Biden and Kamala's records are, which at least is nice, and yet these are the choices we're given, so
right.
It's very frustrating.
How do you deal with it, the frustration? Hey, it's a good outlet.
It's not, though. It's not. Like, these apps are designed to have us screaming to avoid and feel like we're accomplishing something, which is very, I don't know about that. I don't know. It's hard to deal with. Comedy was the way. It's not really here right now. You have to accept what's in your control and what's not. And not
totally.
spend your life just freaking out about things that you have no control over, and just doing little things. If you're going to make calls for Bernie or whoever, or just do little things that make you feel some sense of control.
Absolutely. I think about that all the time, only control what you can control and trying to turn it over.
Yeah.
To not, and because not controlling everything is that's a big lesson with stand-up too, where you can't, there was another quote you had about basically when things go good or bad, trying not to get too caught up in either direction of it. And with stand-up, I feel like there can be since you're the writer-director of it, it's also wanting to write or direct how people receive you too. And be like, I should get this or I should get that. I feel that's a slippery slope that you can fall into with stand-up, and then you have to like let that go. Otherwise you'll go insane. It's
brutal, and it has driven me insane. And it's
yes.
hard not. It's hard not.
Has it been harder during Corona? Because it has for me. I used to not doing it, and then recently I would get fixated on it. And I literally had to read about resenting someone is taking poison and expecting it to affect them, because there's like certain things where I was losing it because I didn't feel like I wasn't making any progress at night. So made me worse than ever in Corona.
It's bad. The thing is, I also take joy in that venom. Like, like it's the same thing with roasting. Like it's fun to like think things and shit talk basically with friends. It's like one of the greatest joys of doing comedy. It's like
absolutely.
And I don't genuinely mean most of these people harm, and it's frustrating more so on the industry side of what are you doing? Like, it's not these people's fault they're succeeding. It's like someone's giving them something for a reason, but you're just like, why are you doing that? And then at some point you have to accept, well, the people in power, they hate art and they fuck kids. So like, it's not our fault. It's not our fault.
That's the thing. That's the conclusion you have to come to. You're pedophiles. No, it makes sense.
Hey, that's a lot of it.
Thank you so much for doing the show. And where can people find you and find your podcast?
They can find me at Dinah Hashem _ on Twitter and Instagram. My podcast, Dead Quiet, is on Spotify and Apple and all that. And if you like it, I have a Patreon as well for bonus episodes and stuff.
Awesome. Thank you so much for doing the show. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Great
Of
talking
course.
to
My
you.
conversation
too.
with Dinah Hashem. Thank you so much for being here. The next episode will be with Shanae Alexandra, Instagram influencer, but a good one. One of the good guys. She talks a lot about health and fitness. She lost 70 pounds and never been more miserable than when she lost all that weight. Okay, this has been another episode of Emma's Bunker. Thank you so much for being here. I hope I offered a little bit of escape. I appreciate you. Thank you, and goodbye.